going through his journey. And I want to go ahead and start by checking in on Bulls Connect. This will take you to the event. You can check in on there. Make sure that you're here. For a second, the phones to go down. If there's any trouble with registering and connecting into the event, just let me know afterwards and we'll try to get you sorted. Thank you.
It won't let me register.
Are you already on Bulls Connect?
I'm not. Then it said, hold on.
Okay, all right.
Again.
I can also give the QR code after the fact, okay? And these are the 3 different QR codes. These are for Globe specifically. So Instagram, this is where we typically post events, any collaborations that we do with other organizations within the college. We also have the Group Me. This is more of a just chat between people. If we're at an event and you're lost or you need to find your way, Group Me is a great way. We also post volunteer and internship opportunities on there. And then the last one, there's Google Connect, which I think is where some of you probably found out about us. And then we also, of course, have the signage. Monique, thank you and your team for putting those up. Appreciate it. So this is our team for the semester. We are looking for 2 more on the board right now. We're looking for an SGEF project director, somebody to collaborate with the SGEF team. And then we're also looking for a secretary to join the board. We'll be holding elections for that soon, so keep a lookout for that. But Allison Wenger, has been with us for a semester. Allie, where you at? You are? Myself, Miguel. Otavio is in the back. Sandra is not able to make it today. And then Shruti is right there next to Allie. So here's Eric. This is a long blurb. Eric, it's your journey. I'll let you speak on it. Sure. But he's here today to speak about his own personal and professional journey and his education, how he got here today with the airport, and where he is going moving forward. So as with all of this sustainability speaker series, we usually highlight some of the UN SDGs that we're focusing on during the conversation. And we always say that it's all interconnected, right? So we could talk about any of the UN SDGs. The one that we decided to put up here today is the UN SDG 11, Sustainable Cities and Communities. So again, Eric can kind of touch on that in his presentation as well. But basically just the resilience, the mobility and access into the community. So from the time that people fly in to get out into the community, and then getting to where they're going, making sure that there's some sort of sustainable development goals worked into all of that. These are some of our events that we've got going on this semester. We do have other things outside of the Sustainability Speaker Series that we're working on putting together. I'm working with a couple organizations that we're working on doing collaborations with, the Agrarian Society, also Homegrown Hillsborough. We'll be doing a couple meetings with them as well. So hopefully, we can get some stuff launched together this semester, and then we're already working on getting some speakers in for next semester as well.
Disco Dolls.
Disco Dolls. They have a few things actually. They have an art studio. They're also a hair studio, cosmetic studio. They're based in Seminole Heights. But from the time that they launched, they wanted to make sure that sustainability was a big part of their DNA. So if you guys are familiar with Sustany Foundation, Andrea, they were one of her Buzzy winners. They've been involved a lot in the green drinks. So we're excited to bring them in. Dr. Del Deschamps, he was a USF professor here. I think he actually might still be an adjunct. And he's out in Newport Richey, has a lot to do with the seed library out there. He works a lot in heirloom seeds and just working a lot within the network of farmers. He mainly stays in Pasco, but he does make his way down here to Hillsborough every so often. Anthony Shruti's that point of contact, but he's with the Hillsborough County. I believe he's with the Environmental Protection, if I'm not mistaken, right? So he'll be here to be speaking on the projects that he has going on. And then one more speaker series that we're waiting to be determined right now. So I'll let you guys know once we have somebody. So thank you again for attending. I'm going to go ahead and pass it off to Eric.
Thank you. So good evening. My name is Eric Caplan. I serve as the Sustainability and Resilience Program Director at Tampa International Airport. Very honored to be here today. It was really nice to get that request, to get a request to tell your story and talk about your position is really nice and happy to do it. So thank you for the invites and thank you all for being here and seeing the signs around campus the way we marketed. It was pretty cool. So I've got, I kind of had freedom to talk about variety of different things. And the couple of ways I had designed this presentation were, one, I'm going to somewhat briefly tell my story about what led me from essentially your position now as students to where I'm at now. And it was by no means a linear path. And so I think it's a really important story to tell as you all are in the same seat, I'm sure in different degrees. But to maybe kind of inspire you that, there's a lot of ways to get to from A to point B, and you have to stick to it. So I'll kind of talk about the path, but then I'll lead into my position at the airport as well, because it's a really cool one. I'm really lucky to have this position, and it touches a lot of things. And so a lot of you might be wondering, what is sustainability, resilience? What does that mean for an airport? So I'm going to speak to that as well. By the end, we'd really love to engage you all with questions and answers. So, feel free to ask anything. I mean, it could be anything in the airport if you want to talk about that. Thank you. And it could be anything about my journey or advice you might want. I really enjoy that type of stuff. I know when I was in your position, I had a lot of questions. I had no answers. I really had no idea where I was going, and eventually just stumbled my way. So I always really wanted to lean on the handheld guide. So feel free there. So first, this is really just a brief bulleted point of the bio that you saw before, but I wanted to just kind of show you that introduction because we're going to go into basically all of this through my journey part of the presentation, but it's just to give you a high level from here, born and raised in St. Petersburg, Florida, what I studied, different positions I held, and then some of the honors I was fortunate to gain, particularly at Tampa International Airport. So this one slide I'm going to leave up and talk about the entirety of my journey this way. And it's more colorful that way, less wordy, but it'll help guide me because it shows essentially all the, whether it's educational or professional experience I've had up till Tampa International Airport. So where I'll start is, I'm sorry, I know I'm in hostile grounds right now, but my journey started at the University of Central Florida. Even though I'm from here, I went to Orlando for undergraduate school. Now, I graduated with an environmental studies degree. But before getting to that part, I think you had mentioned you're a bio major, right? So when I was in high school, I don't know about you all, particularly undergraduate area, they asked me, I think in my senior year, what I wanted to study, what I wanted to major in. You all might have been a lot more direct and intentional about your path. I was not the most organized in high school. I had a lot of different priorities, none of which were what I was going to study in school or what I wanted to do beyond that, really. So I picked journalism was my first choice. And the reason for that is I was just a fairly decent writer. And I had learned that about myself through studies, and not even that I loved it. I just was good at it and was like, let me pick that. So when I get to UCF, take a couple of classes in that journalism path, realize quickly, not happening. I like writing about what I like to write about, but clearly to get a degree, that is not the work you have to put in. And I just knew it was not what I was passionate about, the career I wanted to hold. So I was kind of stuck. I mean, freshman year, so it's a good time to be stuck. Started looking through a catalog, and one thing I've always really, good to see you, enjoyed was science. I was a very science-based person growing up in Florida, very marine biology focused, that type of thing. So I started bio. What I quickly realized, I don't know what your path is, but most of the people in the biology major, where I was thinking marine or oceanography, were pre-med. That is essentially what biology undergrad degree was. That was not what I wanted to do. Even though I took the chems and the orgos, I didn't want to do all of that for that type of degree, which also didn't really know what the path was going to be from there. So I went back into the catalog, and I'm telling you all this just to show you how back and forth even that part of the process was. And there's a very beginning first year program called environmental studies. Well before anything was called sustainability, really before any environmental programs were really a thing, UCF had this very early stage of environmental studies degree. Looked at the curriculum, loved it, saw potential in it professionally, caring about the environment, renewable energy, whatever it might be. But it was something that really struck me as classes that I was going to really enjoy. And that was my focus. And so I finally landed on the degree path that I was going to go with and continued my education journey through UCF. As I got older or towards junior, senior year, I got a little bit more focused, as you might, when it comes to, what do I want to do with this? And so for me, that started feeling more and more an incorporation between environmental studies and emergency management, which was my minor. And so I did an internship with Seminole County Emergency Management. And I thought one day I'd be able to intertwine both of these degrees, maybe work for FEMA response, something of that nature was kind of in my head at that time. So I graduate, major, minor, but we're in kind of a weird era, not necessarily similar to the era that you're facing, and it's kind of why I want to share that, but more of an economic downturn. So we had a bad economy in about 2008, 2009. We had a housing crisis and a low economy that took a long time to get out of. And as I was graduating, getting to the professional market, I was in that time, and it was really difficult to find anything. So I'm telling you that for particularly if you run into this scenario, there's difference in economies, we're different in political environments, but the one thing I had to continue doing was just throwing all the darts at the wall that I possibly could, particularly at the beginning, because my goal was just to get experience in the realm I wanted, even if it was not the most perfect job. I just know I needed to get experience and start building from that. So my first job was with the Florida Department of Health, or the health department, for a position that was called environmental specialist. And because it had the word environment in it, I was like, score. It's exactly what I'm looking for. I'm going to be working in the environment, start building experience. What I quickly learned was I was a health inspector. That's essentially what the position was. Not quite to the point of going in restaurants, but what they call an environmental health inspector. So a large amount of codes, hospitals, assisted living facilities, group homes, none of which I wanted to do. But it was really the only thing I could land. It took me a long time even to land that. First job at $28,000 a year. It's that type of experience that I landed. And when I was in it, it was tough. It was tough to kind of fall in love with it. I mean, it's a good time because you're young. Most of your peers in those positions are young. You make friends, but the job was just not really thrilling. But there were two benefits I look back, and I'm so glad that I got that experience, and is really the kind of the thread of this whole experience or this presentation is to talk about all the benefits of every next step along the road. One thing, Florida Department of Health is a state agency. And if you work for a state agency, even though generally pay, not always great, they have pretty good benefits, one being tuition waiver for graduate school. And so I knew I needed to be more competitive, even though I was getting this experience. I wanted to get more tools. And so I utilized that and waived tuition at the University of Florida to get an environmental policy degree, a master's degree in environmental policy while I was working. I probably would have never have done that. I didn't really have the desire of going right into graduate school. I wanted to get experience, but if I hadn't done that, I would not have been able to kind of continue along the way that I did. The other thing I gained from that was I originally was deathly afraid of public speaking. Like I'm going to guess some people in the audience are. I was so afraid of public speaking, particularly when I was younger. I mean, you kind of get better. There's certain classes that make you do it and you get better. It's the only way to get better. But I was really bad, like inside, like shaking bad. Thank you. It's gotten better, right? But that position really helped me get good at it. And the reason was that even though I was all of 22, 23 years old, much like, a lot of you in the audience, I had to go in like I was the expert in these industries that had 30, 40 years, sometimes professionals, and act like I was the professional and that I was essentially grading them on their health report. And I had to go into these rooms, sometimes as big as this, and just go right in and give the introduction and my spiel every single time, every day for over 2 years straight. And when I look back at it now, that 1,000% helped me with public speaking and getting more comfortable. And I say that because that's just one tool that I gained from that position, but you all might land a position after your degree that might give you another set of tools that you're not going to maybe even realize in the moment, that you will at the end. And you'll reflect back and realize that you gained experience from that. While I was at Florida Department of Health, although I don't have the image, I met a consultant firm in the field called Greenfield Environmental that does a lot of like indoor air quality, asbestos, petroleum cleanup, that type of work. And I just knew I wanted more experience and I didn't want to be a health inspector anymore. And I wanted to get a little bit better of a paycheck too. So I met them, got a job offer, and all of a sudden I am doing indoor air quality work. Could be mold, could be lead, a lot of asbestos as well. And it was a pretty brutal job. It's in the field every day. It's getting in attics and crawl spaces and sampling and doing all of this type of work, no matter what time of year it was. Um, Also didn't like that job, and you're going to see that's common to like it later on. That none of these I was really in love with, but I always stuck with until I had the next opportunity. And I do want to mention that, sometimes you might get fed up in what you do, but my perspective is every next day was another day of experience, even if it wasn't my favorite job. And it was going to lead me to another ends. And I was, had a lot of faith in that. And thankfully it ended up happening. So while I did that environmental air quality work, there was a position that opened up, which I think you had mentioned Environmental Protection Commission is coming.
Anthony will be here.
Okay, cool. So that was my next job. And I got hired, my first time getting out of an entry level job, I got hired at what they call Environmental Specialist 2 at the EPC for their air quality division. And the reason I got air quality division is because I had indoor air quality experience all of a sudden. You just see how it starts to pick up. And when I started working there is when I really got involved in a lot more engineering principles. So I was very science-based, work before. Air pollution control is a lot of inspecting your entities like TICO or Mosaic or all your industries and looking at permits and inspecting them and then going through legal action, all of that type of work. All of a sudden I was gaining experience in. And it was completely diverse and completely different than experience I'd had before. And it really started opening my mind, kind of building more tools there. And what I realized, even though it wasn't the benefit that the health department gave me, I had a little bit of tuition help as well because Hillsborough County has that program also. So I went back to UF. I got another master's degree, my last one done after that, but I got another one in environmental engineering. And the reason why is I wanted to get that engineering degree to just diversify, although albeit still kind of in the environmental realm, having a science related degree, policy related degree, an engineering related degree, I thought was very helpful to kind of diversify my skill set and make myself more attractive as I continue through my career. I had a great experience at EPC. There might be several of you that might even be the area that you look at, particularly if you're in Patel College, at least as a beginning position. Fantastic experience there. And they do a lot of really good work. And for those who don't know, we had an EPC before the nation had an EPA. So I think they started in 1967 and EPA was like 1972. So Tampa Bay has actually been treating their air quality and water quality very seriously for a very long time. And even though we talk about environmental issues now, and of course they exist, if you look at air and water quality from the 60s to now, they're vastly more improved in the Tampa Bay area, and really a lot because of that organization. So just wanted to give them a highlight. So while I was there, I was fairly happy, and I was over 4 years of experience there. And when I started, in addition to the air quality stuff, we had a beginning of a sustainability program. And it's the first time you're starting to hear the term at all in the professional realm. What that meant for the EPC, it was a lot of more community engagement. We were going through solar co-ops and trying to advertise them throughout the neighborhoods. We were starting to look at our fleet transition, things like that internally at the EPC and some public engagement. And luckily that position was held in the air quality division that I was held in. I was brought in to start assisting with that program. And once I started doing that, albeit fairly limited, all of a sudden I had experience in what was now a new kind of sustainability industry. And with all that combination and that other master's degree, I applied for a position at Manatee County government at 26 years old that I didn't think I had any shot at all. I was underqualified, underexperienced. I was really young. It was a management position for Manatee County. And I got a call, an interview, another interview, and I landed it and became the Energy, Sustainability, and Buildings Division Manager for Manatee County. And that's actually where I met Dr. Haldar, and we started collaborating and really got me into the space. But I want to mention that too, because I hear from a lot of students, all different ages, and even colleagues now, that I am not qualified for that position. You know, I'll see something, I'll pass it to a colleague, and they're like, I'm not qualified. Don't listen to that at all, because you never know. You could be 10th person in line and all 9 decline the job, and all of a sudden you're getting the call. That's always been my approach, no matter what. It doesn't matter how big, sure, you may not land it, but you might as well try, especially if you're interested in it. And you got to have a little bit of confidence in yourself that every job is a little bit of fake it till you make it, and then all of a sudden you become the expert. So even though you may not be experienced, if you're confident in your capability of learning and will give the effort, you got it. There's a Teams link on, right, too?
Yeah.
Cool. Hi, I forgot about that. So really, I think that's a big point to make. Just don't shy away. You never know. And all of a sudden, I was young. I was managing people that were 50s, 60s that were like, who is this kid? And I had to overcome that and learn that those people skills, and of course, learn a lot more about energy. I learned a lot more about building systems with that job, continued sustainability. It's the first time I got into resilience because we worked with the Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council a bit. Started working with this college on collaboration, met Mazi, met Dr. Hildar, met Kabrev as well. Actually, the whole team here I met, as well as Dr. Dorsey. So really the ball started rolling as far as that was really the position where the ball started rolling. But I was also about 4.5 years in to that position. And I also realized it was probably not my forever. And I was getting but was pulled away more from the energy and sustainability side. And managing buildings, particularly for a whole county, can be quite a bit. I was getting a call at 3 a.m. on a Saturday morning because a water heater, exploded in a library and there was a leak, and I have to address the call. And that's not sustainable, pun intended. Like, I just did not want to keep doing that. But I didn't bail. I just kept my eyes open. You know what else might be out there? And I applied for 2 different positions at really the same time. One was with the city of St. Petersburg, and the next was at Tampa International Airport. No call from TPA at all. Just, okay, good application, but who knows? But got the call from the city of St. Pete, and fortunately got hired by the mayor's office to be what they called their energy analyst within their sustainability program. Which was cool. First time I live in the city of St. Pete. I love it. I felt like I was contributing. They had clean energy goals, all of that I enjoyed. But, it moved from a division manager and kind of a program manager into a very specific kind of data crunching type job. But regardless, I wasn't getting 3 a.m. water heater calls either. So there was that benefit. But 6 months later, I get the call from Tampa International Airport for the position that I hold. And when I learned more about the position, it was exactly much more aligned with the path that I wanted to take. Got those interviews. They do some serious interviewing, 4 or 5 different kinds, different types of people, and landed that position. And so that was much more aligned with what I wanted to do. And was able to land that position again about 4 years ago now. Also say that because more than likely, I was not the first choice. I don't know who was, but I didn't get the call right away, but I got the call down the line. So, you just always have to keep faith, keep your head, keep moving. You never know. Now I've been with my airport for, again, a little over 4 years, run sustainability and resilience program. And since then, for the last couple of years, I've also started teaching online. Southern New Hampshire University's got a pretty cute brick and mortar school in New Hampshire, but very small. But they've done great at marketing an online school program. And they've got sustainability as one of their core classes, even for undergrad. So I teach a principles in sustainability and a principles in STEM online course. and do that while I'm at the airport just to get a little bit different experience. Again, kind of build up the resume. And again, you're seeing the theme of, they're just building blocks. So you never know where they're gonna take you, but you keep doing them and you get inspired that way. You get excited when you're kind of doing newer things. So that's going to transition me into the Tampa International Airport program presentation, but knowing it's a lot of information, I'll pause. Is there any questions or comments or thoughts on kind of the journey part of the presentation? Talk at the end too, but a lot of info. Okay.
A comment for everyone.
Yeah.
The whole reason we had Eric talk about his journey is because all of us come from very different backgrounds. And it's very inspirational to see that he knew what he wanted, but there were so many different places that he had to try out and know that, okay, this is something that I like. This is not something that I like. I need to go on. And it's super inspirational for each of us, especially when we all will be getting into our professional journeys, looking for jobs. It gets difficult, but there's always something out there. So I really hope this was helpful.
Just wait till I graduate. You can call.
Okay. Okay, understood. Great comments. Yes, and thank you for some of those kind words too. To echo that, your journey is more than likely not going to be linear, as you had just mentioned. There are some people I know, and Dr. Holder, we were talking about it last night, some students that really have worked with all of you that have gotten hired pretty quickly with jobs I certainly didn't get right out of school. You're in a different era, in a better era, and there might be, headwinds politically, whatever it might be, but I'll tell you, there are more of these positions on earth now than there ever has been, and it may go up and down, but it's still going to continue to grow and reform and change, and there's terms like resilience now, and energy jobs, and sustainability, and all different things, as you mentioned, that there's a really great opportunity now that's only been building. But your journey more than likely isn't going to be linear. And there's a couple of things. A, it's hard to look at friends, colleagues that may have got this thing over here and you have not yet, or you're over here doing this. Eyes on your own paper as much as you possibly can, because that's going to kind of spoil you a bit if you keep your focus on that, because everyone's journey is different. And you may go up at times when other people go down and vice versa, and that's always how it's going to go. But your journey's not linear, and you just got to use the building blocks and take the experience as they come and build upon that. And then eventually momentum happens. All of a sudden you start like, oh, wow, I'm kind of attractive for these positions I never in a million years thought I would be. And now I am. And momentum starts building from there, and confidence starts building from there. So moving to the program at the airport, I'm assuming everyone familiar with Tampa International Airport? Usually. Okay, yeah. But here's a couple of infographics. The one thing I'll point out is the formal organization name is actually the Hillsborough County Aviation Authority. So we manage 4 airports. Certainly Tampa International Airport being the primary, the one. But we manage 3 general aviation airports as well. And those are your private airports. There's actually one close to this campus called Tampa Executive. That if you got a charter that's not coming into TPA, which could be, celebrity coming to, perform, or a sports team. A lot of times they'll go to Tampa Executive. We've got a really cool airport in Plant City that's really more of like their community airport. That's like their pride and joy in Plant City. That's mostly private planes. And then Peter O'Knight is like the kind of the high class society one on Davis Island. It's really pretty campus, but mostly private, but also charters and flight schools too. So flight schools happen at these GA airports. And then all these infographics on how we're designed. And of course, the big part of our design is the fact that we have 4 air sides in the main terminal and 4 air sides. That is why it's so quick to get through TPA, or we're known to be so quick. Because security is on the back end of those air sides, where if you go to the big ones, the Denvers, whatever it might be, they like the centralized security. And that's why it feels so like crazy. And there's so many people. We're able to get you to security once you get to your air side, and you're always diverting traffic and congestion along the way. Another infographic, just economic opportunity. We also, we've got about 700 employees for the airport, but there's over 10,000 people that work at the airport. It's a mini city, Could be rental car, it could be airlines, could be TSA, could be the concessions, all over the place. We've got staff and job opportunities, which is a good thing to mention for this group too. There's so many things out there. It's hard to even tell you what. There's opportunity everywhere. And we're probably floating now in the top 25 busiest airports in the country now. Usually we're kind of around there as Tampa Bay area keeps growing. So do we. And we're considered what's called a large hub airport, which the only next size is your LAs, your Atlantas, the really big ones. So one quick infographic because we've got a new CEO, Michael Stevens, which is great because he was also part of our team prior to our last CEO, which is pretty rare. So our prior CEO's name is Joe Lapano, been there for 13 years, pretty much responsible for our master plan program, our growth, air service development, more international flights and domestic, and he retired, and deservingly so. And usually when an airport like Tampa, that's regarded like Tampa, but even in its size, you do an international search for a CEO. Our board decided to look only internally at his team, which is very rare. We were all thrilled about it because it's continuity. It's someone we know, they know us. You're not coming in and making a ton of big changes, although, Michael's got his own plans for sure. So we're really happy with this transition and having Michael at the helm now. John Tiliakis, Damian, Chris are also part of the old guard. And I'll point out Smitha Radhakrishnan, which some of you may end up meeting depending on collaboration with myself and Dr. Haldar, because she is essentially my vertical. So my position falls in the planning development department. So planning, development, engineers, architects, construction managers. She is our chief development officer. So oversees planning development and our maintenance team. So essentially my boss. And when we have these collaboration projects that we do, that we call consultants in training, and you do a research project, you present it like you're a consultant, which has really been a great, and there's several, in the audience that have been part of it. And a lot of times we'll get her in the audience to listen and give feedback. And so she's been a great addition. And she came from Dallas Fort Worth Airport, DFW. So how are we on time? Good. So briefly, how sustainability started at the airport. We started doing sustainability initiatives a little bit more informally without a program earlier on. You can see, changing out irrigation systems to reclaimed water. Kind of a no-brainer now, but it was an early adoption of that and obviously really helpful for landscaping. Started looking at sustainable design a little bit more informally. But in 2012, we received a grant from the FAA, which is our head regulatory agency, for $600,000 to start a sustainability program. And that is actually a grant program they still have today to help airports kind of get started, which is pretty fantastic initiative by the FAA to help airports. So we used that money to develop our first plan, sustainable management plan, which was done in 2014. We didn't have a position yet, so we did it through our master plan consultant, Recondo, which is a big consultant firm for those, who might be going into that area post-school. They're huge, particularly for airports, and developed our first plan. And you're seeing kind of an image of the first one. A lot of initiatives came out of that. Hiring a position to oversee this program to help achieve the goals was a big part. And so they created a first sustainability position in 2015, which I would say for airports, pretty early on, particularly in the US. 2015 was early to have a formal position to oversee it. All these goals were to be achieved by about 2020. And it was more in line with what we call the triple bottom line that I'm sure most are familiar with. And we called it people, planet, prosperity. So sustainability goals related to people, what your more social goals, employee, community, environmental, energy, waste, water, emissions, those type of things. And then more on the financial side, the legal side, policies, procedures. So, the normal concept where a lot of us are used to. And that was all by 2020. A couple of the initiatives that we achieved, there was fleet transition. There was more emphasis on sustainable design and master planning. We developed a 2-megawatt solar array. So many of you may not know unless you've gone on a tour, but we've got a 2-megawatt system on our South Economy garage. So the very top floor. So shaded parking, a little side benefit of that if you get to the top floor. That was a partnership with Tico, and it was done around 2016. So actually, solar's changed tremendously even since then, but it's still producing as well as it's ever done, and it's a community partnership. So all that energy is generated going straight to the grid, not to the airport. And then we kind of average it out about 150 average homes a year is what it produces. It still produces really good. So if you have south end of the economy, or if you come for a tour, we'll more than likely try to see it. I will say a little lesson learned there is as we move forward at Tampa, we're looking at renewable energy, microgrid projects. We're more than likely going to look at projects that service the airport energy demand moving forward. This was a great partnership with Tico. Great thing for them because they hadn't really scaled solar much as a utility yet. So win-win for sure, but probably would do things a little bit differently as we move forward. Another thing you may not know is that we have a interior landscaping team that grow about, right now they're rehabbing the greenhouse. So we've got a greenhouse on site. They grow about 75% of the plant life that you'll see at the airport. And all the plant life is real. And that maybe you just assume that was the case. Most airports not the case. Because if you think about how massive an airport is, indoor too, natural lighting, sure, but still indoor. And the level of kind of service you have to give your passengers, like you can't have a dead plant. You really can't even have yellow leaves on a plant, um, or you look bad. So if you're going to do this, you have to commit to it across the board. And so we have a whole team that both manages the greenhouse, but all the plant life throughout all the airport too. It's a really cool feature of Tampa International. So as 2020, all those goals were to be achieved by 2020, and then we were going to update the plan. Then COVID hit, as we all know, in 2020. And so we put a lot of things on pause. You know, the aviation industry was very shaky. TPA, really, the whole industry went down to about 3% traffic with no idea when it was going to come back. And TPA did a great job of holding financial reserves, didn't lay anyone off, but if we didn't bounce back the way that we did, those reserves things change year to 2 to 3, and no one knew what the aviation industry was going to do. So we had this program on pause, and really anything that wasn't just getting planes in and out on pause. But luckily, the industry bounced back very quickly, as we kind of know, and they were able to re-engage the program. We hired the position, which is when I came on. And then one of the first jobs was to update the sustainable management plan and create new goals, new mission and vision, some new branding, all with the goal of achieving these by 2030. It's kind of our deadline. And you can see a little bit of a difference in the goal categories because I mentioned people, planet, prosperity before. We're in a different era of sustainability now where, you had to be a little bit more on the marketing side too. So people, planet, prosperity sounds really great. It's kind of fluffier language too, but it's also hard to decipher. We may know what it means, but if our CEO was opening up the plan and they were looking at prosperity, what does that mean? Like, what goals could mean? Yeah, I mean, that's what that means, but not everyone would be intuitive. So, but now we don't have to do that. We don't really, sustainability is kind of ingrained where that marketing aspect of the language can change a little bit. And so we're able to be a lot more direct. So as you can see, if someone from the public, CEO opens up the plan and they see resource management, more than likely they know what goals they'll find there. Same thing with clean transport. First time we were able to add resilience too. So around that time is when we really started looking at resilience planning formally, which I'll talk about what that means too, and the new mission and vision. So resilience program. We started this in 2019 by completing what's called a vulnerability assessment. You may have heard that term. All cities and counties in the state of Florida are mandated to create vulnerability assessments now. That's only a 2-year, 3-year tops update. So 2019, you should, but it's usually self-funded, not a lot of grants for it. What does it even mean? What scenarios do you look at when it comes to storm surge and flooding? Now everyone has to because of the city and county. So that's how important it is. So we did in 2019 and outlined all types of different vulnerability areas with the idea of creating this resilience action plan to tackle them. What you can see in bold is what we've achieved so far, and they're diverse. You know, it's stormwater, but it's also electrical infrastructure. It's a staff heat assessment on the campus, vector illness because we were coming out of COVID. But what I'll point you to is that slosh model at the top, really between that and unfortunately some of the hurricanes we've experienced over the last couple of years have completely steered the program to really hyper focus on storm surge, flooding, stormwater modeling, that type of thing. So slosh model is your storm surge modeling, including compounded flooding. And this is an example of what different scenarios look like. This was 2020, so like our most current data set at the time, and at a category 5 worst case scenario inundation. And as you see, as it's darker red and orange is the higher inundation. And when we're getting to orange and red, we're getting 20 plus feet of storm surge inundation above finished floor, not just above sea level, above whatever that finished floor is. That's the inundation level. So when we started doing that modeling, and certainly after last summer, but even before, that was very alarming to our executive team at the airport. They're like, wow, I didn't realize how vulnerable we are. What do we need to do? What do we need to protect? And that's really cascaded the resilience program to focus on what do we need to protect. I'll back up. So the way we've focused on it, we've engaged a lot of different departments, and we're looking at critical assets on the airport. And now a couple of them have gone from planning stage to now design, now into construction, temporary flood barriers, including elevating infrastructure for the FAA, hardening, flood doors at certain entryways, all that type of stuff we're looking at as part of resilience. And I'll say, even though I'll speak to energy too, another form of resilience we're looking at that we've been working with Dr. Haldar's students quite a bit is energy resilience. And for us, that's our capacity of backup generators on site is very limited. And you can't just do everything on an airfield at your terminals because FAA is very particular in the space that you need aircraft to move around in. So we're looking at campus-wide solutions, which could include microgrids, solar farms, that type of thing, to address that resilience need on the energy side. So part of the sustainability program that I wanted to highlight, a big part that we're engaged in, is called the Airport Carbon Accreditation Program. So there's an umbrella organization called ACI, Airport Council International, around the world, that engage airports around the world to look at carbon emissions and look at essentially reduction when it comes to energy and gas use. But then you start tracking what's called scope 3 as you move along, which would then be your airline emissions, your rental car, concessions. So it's a highly detailed program along the way. We were the first and only set of Florida airports for a long time engaged, but I will now give kudos. Miami is now engaged in the program. I think Orlando and a couple of others throughout the state. But Tampa has been engaged for a long time. And so we're tracking emissions over time. We have to show reduction too. That's in order to stay part of the program. And it's a great international program that, as you might imagine, a lot of the airports in Europe take very seriously. A lot of the airports in Asia take very seriously. And North America is definitely getting up there too. And I will say DFW is actually like a world leader when it comes to this program. So electrification, which includes energy, but this planning kind of falls within my purview as well. We talked about energy resilience, but as I think many in this group know, the world is going electric no matter what. I mean, people can talk about language and disagree and policies or whatever, but everything kind of innovative until once we start looking at hydrogen and beyond, when it comes to particularly transportation, is electric. Anything heating, it's electric. Anything cooking, electric. That is the innovative way that we're moving kind of regardless. And we know that we need to get out ahead of that. Airlines are driving this, rental car centers are driving this. So we need to A, make sure we have capacity for this increased demand. And B, how do we mitigate that? How do we make sure our bill doesn't go, beyond a point of no return? And how do we do energy efficiency projects or renewables along the way? So we've got it organized in kind of these pillars, airport transportation being one, which really means our buses and trains on site, which right now are now fully electric. I mean, trains, you might imagine, already are, but all buses throughout the campus are currently electric at TPA. Our ground fleet are our vehicles, and we've got like a 50% transition goal there that we're working our way towards. And the reason it's 50 is we want a resilience piece of that too. And we've seen that actually in real practice where you have diverse fuels, you're a little bit more resilient. So, of course, we know a big storm comes down and the grid goes out. Be nice to have gas vehicles on site to maneuver. But what we learned last summer is actually it was more difficult to get gas than it was and our grid stayed on. So having the EVs was really helpful. So that's kind of the resilience consideration we've been making. One thing I'd like to highlight though is what we call airline preparedness. Part of that includes ground support equipment, which are the big tugs that move the luggage and all of that on the airfield. Airlines are going electric with those heavy duty equipment. But that top photo is called an eVTOL, electric vertical takeoff and landing. It's an air taxi. And that is a new technology that very recently 3 companies in the US just got approved. So this is not like Jetsons. I don't even know if that reference is even landing anymore, Jetsons. But this is not pie in the sky. Like this is happening. This is already approved. And Tampa is trying to be very aggressive in being at least the first in the US or North America to get the inaugural flight. And I don't know if you all know this, but the very first commercial flight happened to Tampa Bay, not Wright brothers' first flight, but first commercial flight happened from St. Petersburg to Tampa, and it was Tony Janis. So when you go to Janis Live concert venue or you see Janis somewhere, that's the namesake, is Tony Janis was the first pilot. So we want to replicate that. And that's okay. As on the inaugural flight. But this is happening, fully electric, air taxis, limited, 4-seaters, at least for now, but it will be the beginning of electric aircraft moving forward too, and it will certainly scale up over time. I'll move through quickly, but try to do a little Q&A maybe at the end, but I wanted to show our master plan process because it was so critical for us. It's transformed the campus in the last decade by far. And one thing that's been really refreshing at Tampa International Airport is when we plan for something, we build it. They just build, no matter what they commit to it, they build to it. And for a planner, designer, it is really nice to be able to be part of that process early on and to see something we built. So master plan phase 1 included everything you see here. Automated people mover is our Sky Connect train, and we got that Envision verified. So that's a sustainability third-party certification similar to LEED, but more what they call horizontal construction. Phase 2 included Sky Center, which is our office building at the airport that some of you have been at, our central utility plant, cooling and heating for the main terminal, and our curbside expansions that you might have seen in the news are now open. Sky Center 1 was the first LEED Platinum building in the Tampa Bay area. And it's beautiful, really cool building. I've got an infographic on it. And we are now just past 100% design on what we call phase 3, which is Airside D. I don't know if you've heard of that, but that will be our 5th airside. It'll be double the size of our biggest now, 16 gates, fully international terminal. And right now looking to be LEED Silver, maybe LEED Gold certification. But that's just early on news. I don't know what it will be. But want to highlight that is going right now. Our international flights are kind of scattered. This is going to consolidate them and most definitely bring more international flights to TPA, which is really exciting and will be set to be done in 2028. So we're getting through design. Quick infographic on phase 1 that I mentioned, but just to highlight Envision verified, and it's about $1 billion worth of projects, which you do not usually do for Envision. We've gotten a lot of good requests for presentations on how we did it because it was a great highlight for that program. It's also show what not to do. We did it after the fact. You don't want to do a certification after you built it because you're tracking constantly data. So it was both good and bad, but we achieved it. Mentioned our third party, Lean Platinum, Sky Center 1, and continued focus for Airside D. Here's a quick infographic on the LEED Platinum building of Sky Center. You're getting kind of an image of it, but everything you see here is what it took. I mean, it takes everything you can imagine, from diversion of waste to locally sourced material to energy, water efficiency, stormwater capture, everything. You have to hit every mark essentially to get that LEED Platinum. So it's a really big deal that we landed it. Essential utility plant, part of the sustainability tours, if you've been on them, or maybe you'll be on them one day. Highly efficient HVAC cooling for the main terminal. You may have driven by it because it looks like this with that really cool waterfall feature that people just think it's a cool art thing, cool building. That's actually the water that's cooling the air to the main terminal. So it's got a purpose. And again, we highlighted that's what our Site D is going to look like. We've got a lot of renderings out there. So if you're interested, you go on the website. Really cool. And now we're beyond 90% design. That's what it's going to look like. Once you get beyond 90%, there are little tweaks from there, but the design is mostly what it's going to look like. So if you're interested, it's really cool to see. And last but not least, a lot of this program is community engagement. You mentioned Sustany. We've been involved with Sustany for a long time. Really encourage USF students to engage because, that momentum's good for Sustany too, to kind of keep them going. But they offer a great service among a lot of nonprofits and aviation particular organizations too. But also always like to emphasize the collaboration we do with Patel College. And we've done it every semester. As I mentioned, even when I was at Manatee County, Dr. Haldar knew each other and we collaborated. And it's been so successful getting projects from the students because a lot of them have been now actionable at the airport. And it's been really beneficial for the students to kind of be in that consultant role and see what that feels like. And with that, that's my story. Sticking to it. Got time. Any questions?
Minutes, plus I think we can go over for some pizza, so.
Any questions on program? Yeah.
I have two. Okay, first one, can you amplify the use of the, I saw in it's like the 100% stormwater?
Yeah.
So what do you do with stormwater capture?
So it's not, although that's a good,
Part of from irrigation, so just irrigation.
it's a good question. So we're not, although we're looking into stormwater harvesting, because there's some airports that do it. Some do it for their cooling towers. Some even do it for their car wash, certainly irrigation. When it comes to the stormwater capture here, when you build a area with this footprint, you have to account for stormwater. Most of the time, you're not for 100% of the capture of that stormwater runoff because, that was greenfield and now it's not greenfield. So where's that stormwater going? A lot of times you'll buy credits to make up for the land you kind of need. This building, the whole campus, and you can kind of start seeing rows of it can capture 100% of the stormwater displacement of the building, which is a really big resilience benefit. So the ability to capture water on site is kind of what that means. Yeah.
And the second one.
Yeah.
In terms of aviation fuel, are you including something in particular, or you are just following the current regulation or any other partnership with?
Yeah, it's a good question. So aviation fuel, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So we just had a we'll call seminar that we had at Tampa International Airport matter a few weeks ago. And we brought a consultant firm to introduce the topic of sustainable aviation fuel, which has got some momentum, but it's mostly tucked in the Pacific Northwest at the moment, a little bit in Europe, but it's becoming a viable option for some airports. And that's essentially biofuel. So a lot of different crops can make sustainable aviation fuel. Cooking oil can make sustainable aviation fuel. And the FAA has approved up to what they call a 50% blend of Jet A fuel. So it can come in from the tankers or into the pipeline, use the same infrastructure as Jet A fuel, go into the plane the same way, and could be mixed up to 50% with Jet A, and that's approved. So we're starting to look at, how do we roll that out? For the airport, we have to be kind of the conveyors of information, but we need the demand from the airlines. We need help from the port to be able to get it logistically. Dr. Philippidis, that some of you may know.
Yes.
Okay, so hyper focused on staff. That's his thing. And he's looking at, I think, particular crops and like algae forms. So that could be viable. but it needs to be local. So the work that he's doing is really critical. Yeah. And far away, sure you could get it here, but make it less viable. Increasing the stock, it will become more viable. So that's how we're.
Then, I know. It's using. Right. Or you guys maybe like. I don't think a part increase.
You're right, and a lot of that industry's been driven by the EU, and I'll say probably the biggest driver is the EU to the European airlines, which are also a TPA. So they really are kind of the driver. British Airways has asked for it for sure. We've got Swiss Air, we've got Virgin Air, we've got several different European. Copa, one that do follow regulations, and they are operating sustainable aviation fuel and have goals by 2035, whatever it might be. And so they're going to be the driver. US doesn't really have the, even though some of them still have really good programs. I mean, United, JetBlue, Delta, they are hyper sustainable for sure. It's just not necessarily a mandate. So I actually see it coming from our European airlines, but we're the host. You think of Tampa International Airport as the host, and we try to encourage this industry, but they have to be the driver. We can't tell them what fuel they put in their plane or what they want. They have to say, we agree with you, help us get it here. And that's our role.
Can you not, as an airline or like as an airport, say, it's encourage, or I don't even know if you could require it, that you have to have no more than X amount of carbon emissions coming in and out of our airport?
No, particularly, we unfortunately can't have any actual like regulation around emissions. I'll tell you, at Tampa, it's tough to do that in general because our approach is we encourage and we show what our sustainability program is. Well, we don't mandate because that's when you get into it gets a little fishy, and you're mandating certain business lines to change their business model entirely for certain ways, which is a tough legal thing to do. So instead of the stick, we kind of look more on the carrot side and have that strong collaboration, which I say is still pretty successful, and it's really hard to track aviation emissions right online. We actually do a lot of estimates from the airlines because you're not really capturing it right there. So that would be tough. But I'd say the airport carbon accreditation program helps a lot with that because airlines know that we're doing it and we're tracking their emissions as well. So there's those opportunities.
Question online.
Okay.
When pursuing sustainability at Airside D, which section receives the most attention?
Well, we are doing a LEED certification. So that is going to be really across the terminal, and it looks a lot like this. It's a lot of energy efficiency work, daylight harvesting, water efficiency work. I'd say probably a big piece of it is more on the foundational side, the recycled concrete, the locally sourced concrete, the rebar. We're hyper focused on energy. So I would say that answer, like even beyond LEED, we're looking at energy resilience, energy efficiency in that terminal. It's going to be very noticeably high tech, and it's going to be visibly beautiful, but you'll be able to see some of those like innovative sustainability initiatives throughout. But it's kind of throughout. There's not really one piece. We've got conduit for electric ground support equipment for the airlines. If they want to plug in. We're doing all types of stuff.
I just want to add, I worked with Dr. Philippides on his project
Aha, cool.
doing Coronado.
Okay, yes.
Coronado.
Yeah, that rings a bell.
That's going to be a biofuel. Yeah.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
And anything, you can mass produce, because that's the key, is something you can just keep producing that way, because you need to increase the stock, but that's cool. Okay.
You'd use the term fleet transition. Could you just define and explain that term, please?
Yeah, fleet is our internal vehicles. So all different departments, we've got our own Tampa International Airport fleet of vehicles that are for our staff to get around and do different work. And when I mean fleet transition, I mean essentially from unleaded and diesel fuel to hybrid and electric. So when we have a 50% transition goal, that is moving from those type of fuels to mostly electric, but some hybrids as well, at 50% of total fleet number. That's what that means. And it's a transition because whether you get a grant or whether you fund it in your capital program, it's expensive. The price point is getting more competitive. Actually, the Ford Lightning is only $5,000 more than its competitor as a regular, diesel or unleaded truck. So they're getting much more competitive, but in order to transition fleet, we're talking 5-6 year period. Thank you. Welcome.
Think it would ever be possible to have all electric?
I do. The only issue with the electric is battery piece of it. And they, at least for now, aren't being viewed as a long range flight solution. There's going to be electric aircraft. I mean, the eVTOLs,
Tempted yet?
not that I know of. I mean, I know there are some prototypes. I think even United has an electric plane. I don't know the range, but I know it's not that far of a range. So it's going to be a mix of things. I mean, when you go in the industry, different conferences, a lot of them talk about hydrogen as the future, particularly for long range travel. But it might be a mix of a lot of different things. I mean, sustainable aviation fuel is probably going to continue because we're not getting to those technologies for a bit. So it'll be a mix, but I think a lot of people on the energy side view hydrogen and nuclear as.
Can you talk a little bit about how beneficial the student projects have been and what maybe approximate number of how many of them have moved forward and become a part of what the Air Force does?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's one I like to highlight. So we've been doing them at the airport. We do one a semester. So I'd say we probably have 6, 7, maybe 8 that we've done so far, a lot related to energy. And I would say maybe half of those have in some form or fashion turned into projects. Give you an example, we did an energy efficiency study one year that was diverse, but one was focused on LED lighting. That completely moved into our maintenance team to use as formal planning to do LED lighting transition. Actually, the EV transition that we were talking about, part of that study was the collaboration. And we've got like really great people at the airport, and Smitha being one of them. So when a student comes up with an idea, take it really seriously. And it's like it's planting a seed a bit. You can see the wheels turning of, oh, we should look at that. Last semester, we did building automation systems, which is very complicated, and the students did a great job. And now we're looking at commissioning, more building automation system work. So there's been a lot of benefit, and it's again a mutual beneficial thing. One, we've got a signed memorandum of understanding (MOU) that came out of this collaboration. That now the airport right now. I think you know this, Mazi, but we're working with Dr. John Liccato, on building AI systems at the airport. And that's not me, that's our IT department. But the MOU inspired a lot of collaboration in a lot of different ways throughout the airport, which was its intent. And so a lot of projects that I can't get to, or maybe we didn't fund in a fiscal year through a consultants in training, which has been really good experience for the students too, because you were treated like consultants. And I mean that not even in like a soft way. Like sometimes we presentations that didn't always go well, and our leadership weren't that soft about it either. But it's really good experience, and it's experience I definitely didn't have at all. Everything when I was in school was kind of hypothetical. These are real life application projects, and Dr. Eldar does more than just the airport. Several businesses that do it too. So yeah, we love it.
Ability jobs, do you think that project will create over the next 4 years?
Fun.
The expansion that's leading through 2028.
Yeah, there is a whole team. So to give you kind of the way it works, we've got a team called Hensel Phelps is our design builder. They're one of the biggest in the world. And the architects are H&TB and Gensler. And I'm just floating names in case that's your interest and you want to look into it. Full sustainability teams run in anything from the concrete part to the lead part to the electrification part. So we probably have maybe 10 professionals on the design side. And then me, that's steering the ship too, for the design part of the project. But sustainability is such a big term. So when you go beyond it, who's going to manage the energy part? Who's going to manage the electric ground support equipment part? We mentioned sustainability now, but there's going to be terms we're not even saying yet that are going to be jobs available in that world. But a lot.
Let's see.
Hey, thank you.
We have some.
I was on the other side. I was the analyst. I was analyzing we tested.
Oh, you're on the lap.
GA 600.
Yeah.
Good
job, sir. I can see you soon.
Yes. Thank you for having me.
No, it's just good. Good.
Hey, how are you, sir? Yeah. I was, you get the samples dropping.
Walk bag.
And then I actually took my key out. So, yeah, we got
Were
this.
they removing?
At the time. It was rough.
Smell.
It's like for
And we're getting.
half coats and all that. It was important though.
There are also drinks up front.
And
If you don't need.
it's like PM.
Contracted.
I think you. We can see.
But things.
Major sustainability, I don't know much about.
It's hard.
Book rain filled.
No, okay.
Yeah, good.
Collaboration. Yeah. Optimistic. It's with our school. Some that was like fire. We got.
You will.
Marketing.
You will figure it out.
So good enough.
Yeah.
I remember he gets that was this year the menu.
He hadn't already met.
So thank you. Like, very honored to get the.
Yeah.
And I got my bachelor's of Homeland Security.
Hoping that.